At the Myers-Briggs Company, we've reached out to a variety of experts in the field to provide complimentary webinars for both our college partners and any institution of higher education. Today's topic will focus on settings, operating a college in times of crisis. And we're happy to partner with Dr. Al Solano to deliver this webinar. Dr. Al Solano is a coach and founder of the Continuous Learning Institute. A big believer in kindness, he helps institutions of higher education to plan and implement homegrown practices that get results for students by coaching them through a process based on what he calls the 3 C's: clarity, coherence, and consensus. In addition, his bite-sized practitioner-based articles on student success strategies, institutional planning and implementation, and educational leadership are implemented at institutions across the country. He has worked directly with over 40 colleges and universities and has trained well over 5,000 educators. He has coached colleges for over a decade, worked at 2 community colleges, and began his education career in K-12. And with that, take it away, Al.
Thank you very much. So settings, what is settings all about? And what does that have to do with operating a college in time of crises? Well, college committee structures tend to be slow-moving, inefficient bodies. They're often filled with interest group politics and unproductive meetings that result in time lags and change, if any, that moves in glacial speed. It is the democratic way of doing business in higher ed with many positives, many pros, but let's not ignore the realities of shared governance in a committee structure. It has many cons, many negatives. Therefore, meeting student needs in a time of crisis requires the courage to acknowledge that at many institutions, the committee structure is rendered highly unproductive, some would say useless, in times of crises because they weren't built to respond to pandemics. Institutions of higher education are being pushed to change the way they operate in the fastest pace ever to continue to serve students. This requires considering how settings for change should operate, at least until the crisis is over. So the outcomes for the webinar is to understand the basic concept of settings, and 2, understand what basic activities to conduct within and among the settings. So what is a setting? It's really nothing more than a time and a place for educators to get important work done. A setting is comprised of a series of meetings sewn together by sustained collaboration and teamwork around specific goals. In this case, it's the goal to meet the needs of students and employees during a crisis. So let's take a look at these settings. Setting number 1 is what I like to call the Student-Centered Core Crisis Team. This could be composed of a president, the VPs, academic center president, classified president, institutional researcher. Of course, the student voice is important, so an associated students president. The purpose: to continually problem solve how to meet the needs of students and how to support personnel who try to meet the needs of students. Meeting frequency can vary. For this core crisis team, it could be twice a week as needed for at least 2 hours each day. The second setting is the Student-Centered Dean/Directors team. They're composed of academic and student service managers who represent the frontline personnel and an institutional researcher. The purpose is to continually assess the needs of students, communicate findings via an online share doc, implement decisions made by the core crisis team. Now, this is the team that I like to call the doers. They are the middle managers. They're the ones who have to get the work done. The first setting, the Student-Centered Core Crisis Team, they set policy, procedures, practices, but it's up to this team to actually implement. The third setting is what I call a Student-Centered Liaison Team. So this is composed of members from both settings 1 and 2, perhaps 1 to 2 vice presidents, an academic senate president from setting number 1, and 1 to 2 academic and student services deans or directors from setting number 2. The purpose is to serve as liaisons between settings 1 and 2 to clarify the continuing needs and decisions made to address the needs per the online doc that would be shared among the teams. What we want, ultimately, the outcome is to have what I call the 3 C's. We want to have relentless clarity, coherence, and consensus. That, along with effective planning and implementation, should equal student success. Now, some questions. Why aren't settings number one and number two combined? Well, they can be. It may be feasible at small campuses, but settings of more than 15 people tend to be really unproductive without a highly gifted facilitator. Also, the purpose of each setting is highly focused. The communication between the settings via technology and the liaison group is key, especially since the institution has the settings via Zoom or some other form of technology platform to communicate. Why not call these settings committees, right? Because that's what we call everything in higher ed, is a committee or a work group or a task force. I intentionally call them teams. These are bodies that need to behave like teams, those things that collaborate and don't waste entire meetings on interest group politics. Now, I'm happy to provide a couple examples after posting this piece. A president at a college, at Cypress College, went ahead and applied the concept of settings for her context. And as you can see here, they have at this college 5 settings. They have one with the executive team, one for the Student-Centered Core Crisis team. They have one for the Student-Centered Deans and Director teams. Now, where they a little bit different is that they added a couple more. I think this is exciting. They added a Student-Centered Facility and Safety team. And the purpose is to assess regularly the health, infrastructure, and safety concerns of the campus and address personnel needs. And I really love this one, a faculty support team. So their purpose is to serve as liaisons to assess, provide support for the needs of faculty and instruction. And as you can see here, all these settings that people meet quite frequently, which allows them to cycle through the information that they have to gather and the strategies that they have to implement. Another example is from Porterville College. By the way, Cypress is in California, and so is Porterville College. The president of Porterville, Dr. Claudia Habib, presented this at a forum. This was their setting. So they have a planning team setting to move the campus virtual. Their second setting is an implementation and support team. And their third one is an essential function support team. They even added dates for the work that they did to move them to become a virtual campus. The second set of settings was how to move the academics online. So they had a technical team setting. They had a deployment and support team setting, and a training in teams and subject expert setting. So I think it's important to note that settings there's nothing groundbreaking about it. I often like to say that doing the ordinary extraordinarily well is often how we can define excellence. So if you want to learn more about settings or about other resources, please feel free to visit the Continuous Learning Institute website. I have resources on institutional planning and implementation, student success strategies, educational leadership, and of course, you're more than welcome to contact me at al@continuous-learner.com if you have any questions about this webinar or any other topic covered on the website. With that, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the concept of settings, and I hope to maybe one day learn about how you took this concept and made it your own. Thank you so much.